Let's go! Batter up! We're taking the afternoon off. It's a beautiful day for a ball game, today. The fans are out to get a ticket or two. From Walla Walla, Washington to Kalamazoo. It's a beautiful day for a home run, but even a triple's okay. We're gonna cheer and boo and raise a hullabaloo at the ball game today.
Hey everybody, it's me, Rick Acosta, the Dodger Card Collector, coming to you with another video. Today is Sunday, March 31st. Happy Easter to all of you. My family was planning on bringing back the Easter egg hunt after a 15 to 20 year hiatus, as we now have little toddlers in the family with my great niece and nephew on the scene. But it's raining in Southern California, so I think there's got to be an adjustment made in regards to the Easter egg hunt. Baseball-wise, we are, what does Major League Baseball call it? Opening week. So I'll just still use the phrase "Happy Opening Day," and hopefully some of you were able to make it out to opening day at your stadiums. I did not make it to Dodger Stadium on Thursday for the opening day there. Yes, I know they opened in Japan or in Korea, excuse me. But to me, opening day is really when the Dodgers start playing at Dodger Stadium. And that's something I wanted to talk to you guys today about because it just brings back a lot of memories of the past. It's what's interesting is, and my theme for today's show is going to be about past opening days. But I wanted to talk to you in particular about one opening day, and that was either the first or the second opening day I ever went to, because technically I went to opening night in 1976 when the Dodgers played the Padres. I remember my godfather took his son and myself to a game at Dodger Stadium, and back then the Dodgers did opening night. And I remember getting in, the tickets were $3 in the reserve section, and it was pretty cold and rainy, kind of the way it is now. But what I would consider my first real opening day was in 1980. Fred Clare, who would go on to become the Dodger GM, was the one who made up the idea, who thought of the idea of the Dodgers having a day game for opening day. And I know that a lot of teams do this, and this is one thing I'd be really curious to know is, what does your team do on opening day? Because I'm getting the impression from reading some of the reporters who wrote about the Dodgers opening day the other day that teams do it differently than the Dodgers do. So I was just kind of curious to see what you guys have out your way. But in 1980, the Dodgers had an opening day against the Houston Astros. I was all of 15 years old. And I'm going to tell you a story. And for those of you that ever saw my video regarding the first time I ever went to the very first National, it's kind of the same type of story where same group of friends. This was the era that I was grouped with about 2 or 3 people that we were just obsessed with baseball cards and the Dodgers. But we didn't have tickets. We didn't have rides. Somehow we all talked our mothers, and God bless my mom, because I do think about this every day. Opening day was the one day I was allowed to ditch school, and my mother would write me a note the next day. So that was the first time she ever did it. She said, if you can get out to Dodger Stadium, go ahead. So mom gave me the blessing, and my friends got the blessings from their parents to ditch school, like on a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. Might have even been a Thursday afternoon. And what we did again, what people did back then, we took the bus, of all things. Back then it seemed like a million miles away, but back then I think I lived 12, 13 miles from downtown LA, maybe 15 miles, I should look it up. But I realized in making phone calls to the bus company, the Rapid Transit District of Los Angeles back then, was that I could catch a bus. There was a street I grew up in a town called Temple City, California. There was a street called Las Tunas Avenue. And that was a direct artery into downtown Los Angeles. So we learned that if we took the bus from this corner in Temple City, California, it would take us to City Hall. So I was going to go with my friend Eric and my friend Dan and his girlfriend were going to join us, but they took a later bus. So Eric and I met up on the corner of Las Tunas and Temple City Boulevard, Las Tunas Avenue and Temple City Boulevard. And we met up there and waited for the bus. And the game was at 1, but we probably met up like at 10. We were just we didn't know anything. So we got on the bus and we sat there, and I remember there was this obnoxious young girl asking us, she was probably in her 20s, asking us why we weren't in school, and we said we were going to Dodger Stadium, and she was just giving us crap for the few stops she was on the bus with us. So we ended up, the bus takes us right to City Hall in downtown Los Angeles. Now, for those of you who haven't been to Dodger Stadium is not in downtown Los Angeles. It's on a hill overlooking downtown Los Angeles, about a mile or two away. So being that we were all of 14 or 15 years old when we got to downtown, we had been told there was a bus that was going from City Hall to Dodger Stadium, and being the young men we were at that age, we just said, nah, we're going to walk. So without there was no Waze or Google Maps, we just started walking. We had no clue how to get there, but we walked. And we didn't get lost or anything like that. It probably took us a half hour to 45 minutes, and we walked up the hill. And we were going to sit in the pavilion, which are the bleachers at Dodger Stadium. And we brought money. And it's funny to think about this now because I would never do this today. But back then, we just showed up. We stood in line in the outfield pavilion waiting for tickets, as opposed to buying tickets in advance, because opening day now sells out weeks in advance. So we just stood there and waited in line, and we met people who were also blowing off school or were blowing off college. And we just started talking, and eventually the ticket line opened up. And the box office opened up, and we got our tickets. I think we got in for like $1.50. I'll say $1. This was back in 1980. And we got our seats in the left field pavilion. We just waltzed right in, got our hot dogs, our Dodger dogs, and our sodas. The Dodgers were playing the Astros that day, and it was going to be Nolan Ryan in his first appearance with the Houston Astros, just signed over the summer. Signing as a free agent from the California Angels. So it's going to be Nolan Ryan against Don Sutton. And we stood out in the outfield, and I think the USC marching band was out there. And one of the things that was interesting back then, I don't know if it still happens today, is they would be businessmen who'd show up in their suits because they actually ended up working 2 or 3 hours, then would come out to Dodger Stadium. Just seemed like everybody was playing hooky back then. So we sat out in left field, and eventually, we saw the heard the Star Spangled Banner, and the Dodgers came out, and Dusty Baker was the left fielder back then, and I remember him running out, and all of us yelling, "Dusty," and he waved at us with a big smile, and it was just a great game, and it brings up great memories of opening day. As I know that Dodger Stadium to me means a lot because I have probably been with every family member, every friend, every significant other from the past, every coworker. I've even gone to Dodger Stadium with a dog on Bark at the Park Day. I've become I remember I once went with coworkers to a Dodger game, and I had to sit by somebody I did not like, and we ended up becoming the best of friends. So that was funny. I got to know him at a baseball game. So always love the pageantry, love the magic of opening day. You're 0-0, and when you win on opening day, you're undefeated, and it's going to be an amazing year, and we're all going to live happily ever after. But that's my memory of opening day that I wanted to share with you guys. And what we're going to do today, I'm going to show you some cards from some of my opening day memories. We're going to look at some recent pickups because unfortunately I picked up some cards in the past since the last video. So let's turn the camera around because I've been talking too long. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about opening days past, and I'll end the show with some pickups from the past week. So let's get started. And as I mentioned to you at the beginning, my first opening day in 1980, Dusty Baker came out onto the field as the Dodgers were all introduced, and we were sitting in the left field pavilion, and I will never forget him waving at us and smiling. And it was, like I said, it's just something I still remember to this day. And it's been almost 44 years at this point. So, and plus this gives me a reason to show off this Dusty Baker rookie card, along with Tom Paciorek of the Dodgers and Don Baylor of the Baltimore Orioles. One of the things I really like about this card is just, you have a Dodger and Tom Paciorek, who honestly at one point was the best player the Dodgers picked in the 1968 draft, along with Steve Garvey and Ron Cey and Bill Buckner. Paciorek really just didn't pan out with the Dodgers. He went on to have some good years with the White Sox, but didn't really work for him with the Dodgers. Dusty Baker spent a few years playing with Hank Aaron and the Braves. Eventually came over and became a Dodger star, and obviously we now know him as probably a soon-to-be Hall of Fame baseball manager. And Don Baylor had some great years here in Anaheim with the Angels. Played on a lot of teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Orioles and the A's and the Twins. Has some world titles under his belt. So this is a card I really like to show off, and that's this 1971 Topps Rookie Outfield Stars. Now, in this game, we had two Hall of Fame starting pitchers. And one of them was Don Sutton for the Dodgers, and one of them was Nolan Ryan on the Astros. Now, I don't have a Nolan Ryan graded card on the Astros, so I actually don't even have one of him on the Angels. I only have a few of his on the Mets. So those were the starting pitchers that day. The game wasn't much of a pitcher's battle. Ryan was out after just a few innings, and I think Don Sutton lasted all of 6 innings. Actually, Ryan lasted 6 innings as well, but he only struck out 5, and he gave up 4 runs. My memory of this day was that the Astros took a 1-0 lead in the first inning, but in the third inning, things really changed. The Dodgers always had Davey Lopes as the leadoff batter, and that year, batting second, the Dodgers had a center fielder by the name of Rudy Law. This kid could run. He could really fly. He hit a triple, and Lopes was a pretty fast guy still in 1980, and Rudy Law was just sprinting those bases, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is insane that these two speedy guys are at the top of the lineup. And Rudy Law went on to have a great year with us, but the Dodgers just really didn't have room for him. He wasn't a center fielder with good fielding skills. His hitting was okay. He spent the entire 1981 season in the minors, and eventually he got traded over to the Chicago White Sox, where he stayed a few years. But on this day, we saw 2 Hall of Famers, which was Don Sutton versus Nolan Ryan. The Dodgers ended up winning the game 6-4, and it's pretty exciting when you win a game on opening day. I will say that. Now, probably one of the next guy I'll talk about. I saw him pitch opening day several times. The ones that stood out were in 1984 and 1986. And that would be Fernando Valenzuela, featured here in his 1982 Topps highlight card for the 1981 highlights. And Fernando, in 1986, the Dodgers opened the season against the San Diego Padres. The Padres had this pitcher named Eric Schau. He was good for several years. And it was a low-scoring affair, and the Dodgers ended up winning the game 2-1. And I remember going to that game with my brother, and again, we sat out in the left field pavilion just because it was easier to get tickets. And I remember my cousin went with his then girlfriend, who is now his wife, and my godfather was there, and it was a great day. But here is my 1982 Topps Fernando Valenzuela card. Okay, we're going to flash forward a little bit to 1999. Dodgers had new ownership. There was a new team, or a newer team, called the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they were in town to open the season. And it was going to be a matchup of 2 big-time free agents. The Dodgers had Kevin Brown, pictured here in his 2001 Topps card. And the Arizona Diamondbacks had one Randy Johnson, the big unit. And it was a great game. It was really excited just because the Dodgers had signed a big free agent, and Arizona had signed a big free agent, and they were facing off against each other in the first game, opening day at Dodger Stadium. Things didn't look very good for the Dodgers. After 6, they were down 6-2. And eventually going into the 9th inning, it was a 6-3 game. And by this point, Randy Johnson and Kevin Brown had both checked out of the games. Johnson going 7 innings. Kevin Brown had gone 5 2/3 of an inning. So going into the 9th inning, the Dodgers were down 6-3. They were down to 2 outs. And let's push these guys up here for a moment. One Raul Mondesi came up to the plate. Mondi was now the big-time hitter at this point because Mike Piazza had been traded. And with 2 outs and 2 men on, facing Greg Olson, Mondesi hit a 3-run home run to tie the game in the 6th inning. The place just erupted. Dodger Stadium was going crazy. And the game was now 6-6. And I remember I went with my brother and my nephew Dominic, who was probably all of 2 or 3 years old at this point. And in the 11th inning, Mondesi came back up and he hit a 2-run home run to win the game. The Dodgers went on to win this game 8-6. And that was a great memory from 1999. So the Dodgers played the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then the last game I want to talk to you about, the last opening day, was in 2008 when the Dodgers played the Giants, San Francisco Giants. This was the Dodgers' 50th season in Los Angeles. And at the time, the ownership group, who shall remain nameless, just because I'm not fans of theirs, they hired someone to put on a big opening day extravaganza where they invited back literally as many former Dodgers as possible to the game. And it was amazing to see players come out. I remember Duke Snider came out first. Duke Snider was in a walker. He walked out the center field, and one by one, you saw all these great Dodgers come out. And, eventually you saw the infield of Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Say. And, we started getting near the end, and all of a sudden Fernando Valenzuela came out of the stadium, just went really crazy. But there was one guy left. Oh, I should say there were 2 guys left because I can't leave out Mr. Tommy Lasorda. Then Tommy Lasorda came out, and Tommy was always good for innovation. But the last guy who came out was Sandy Koufax. Koufax had been estranged from the Dodgers for several years at this point. So when he came back to Dodger Stadium and walked out, all of a sudden he saw his name on the scoreboard and his photo, and he walked out from the dugout. And Koufax was a little different. He wasn't the type of guy that'd show up in a uniform. He came out in his nice sport coat and jeans, looking as classy as ever. And the crowd just went insane. I was with my mother. I remember I took my mother that year for opening day, and even she was screaming. And I go, "Mom, what are you screaming at?" And she goes, "It's Sandy Koufax." And it was an incredible memory that still makes me smile to this day. And it was just phenomenal. And the Dodgers that day went on to win 5-0. Our new second baseman was Jeff Kent. He hit a 3-run home run in the first inning. And it was a great day. So great memories thinking about opening day. And I'm sure you all have great memories of opening day for your respective teams in your respective hometowns. But there's just nothing like it. All right, so that's our look at opening day. I want to show you some pickups that I've picked up just because I want to catch up with all of you where I am. You guys know I'm working on 1968. That includes 1968 Topps Game. Today I was at a card show. Oh, I'm going to get the name of this school wrong. It was a high school in Garden Grove. I want to say Los Amigos or something like that. It was a high school out there, and they have a small card show out there in the high school gym. A lot of Pokemon cards. But luckily there were 2 or 3 tables that had vintage. And these were sold to me by a father-son duo, Daniel and Danny. And they sell at this show, they have a show in Chino Hills. They sell at a show in Whittier called Jimmy's USA. They sell at the Burbank show. Good vintage stuff, cheap stuff, expensive stuff, you name it, it's there. So I picked up this Jimmy Wynn card from the Topps game. And the next card I picked up was also from the Topps game. And that is Pete Rose. So I think right now I've got 9 of these. 9 cards for the Topps game set. And then, as I mentioned to you, I picked up some cards from 1968. This was my last pickup from this show, and it's the 1968 Topps All-Star Carl Yastrzemski. And I picked up all 3 of these, like I said, from the same buyer, and I got a really good deal on it, so that's always fun. And it's always nice to go. I think I'm starting to appreciate now the free local small card shows, just because they're free. You're not wasting any money on a ticket. You know, I drove like 8 miles to this show, so it's not that far. And I got to talk to Danny, and we had some great memories to talk about cards, and it's just a good time. A good way. I always say a good way to spend an hour. I wasn't even there an hour, so picked up some good cards. After that, I drove up about 10, 12 miles up the road to Placentia, California, to the Diamond 9 show, as I mentioned, in Placentia. That's a weekly show they have on Saturdays. And again, there's a store in there, so in case you ever want to just hang out there, they do have stores. They do sell lots of supplies, and they do have vintage and modern. And they at the show today, they had, as usual, they always have like 3 to 5 vintage guys. And I specifically went looking for a 1963 Topps Bob Gibson because I had seen one there about a month ago, and obviously it took too long to think about it as the card was long gone. But the same seller, another Daniel, he was working there with his buddy Tim. He had a lot of 1968 cards, and I picked up this Willie McCovey card. So here's Willie McCovey. And I also picked up, holy Willie here, a Jim Palmer card. And I picked up both of these guys. I bought the pair for $20. Daniel was more than accommodating. He also had a bunch of commons, but at the time I was like, I didn't bring my checklist, and I was like, I'll come back in a couple of weeks, because he did have some cards in a binder that I could definitely use. So with these 2 cards, I think I'm down to like 102 cards for this 1968 set. And I am expecting a shipment of about 20 cards from 1968, probably in the next week, as I won some cards from Greg Morris. So maybe I'll show them to you in my next video. Depends on what type of content I have going that day. But so here's Jim Palmer and Willie McCovey. Now, the last few pickups I want to show you, I want to talk about some other sets that I have been working on. You saw earlier, I showed you a Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson card, both from the 2001 Topps set. And believe it or not, I have been working on a 2001 Topps set. I bought the 2001 Topps set, but when I bought when the box arrived and I opened it, there were about 15 to 20 cards missing. So I brought it up to the seller and I said, you want to refund me the money, because I could find them on I could find the missing cards on Sports Lots, which I already looked up. It only cost me a few bucks, so he gave me a refund. So the 2001 Topps set was done. So I decided, being the completist that I am, I wanted to also work on the 2001 Topps Traded set. And that one I refused to buy all at once, because everybody seems to want $1 million for this set. I mean, it was like there were people out there selling the set anywhere between $400 and $500, and I refused to do that. So I bought literally 99% of my cards on Sports Lot, maybe a couple on eBay, and bought them for like 10 to 15 cents each. There were there were maybe 10 cards that were a couple of bucks, nothing crazy. And I needed 2 cards, and I was finally able to get those. And the first one is going to be the Ichiro Suzuki Albert Pujols card. This is a 2001 Topps Traded card featuring the Rookies of the Year. Topps got really lucky on this one that they decided to put their Rookies of the Year. They had no clue they were putting 2 Hall of Famers on a card. But I was, this is a nice card. I generally don't get in that much to modern cards. You guys know that. Building this set, I had an appreciation. I'll be honest, it's not the same as building a vintage set, but it was still fun. It was still neat to buy cards. Like when I bought the 2001 set, that was the first time I had ever had in my collection cards from like Todd Helton or Vladimir Guerrero Sr., those type of players. I think Larry Walker. So it's nice to have those guys in my collection. And one of the things, once I finished the 41 play ball set, I always try to treat my collection as a history of baseball. And I realized that after 1941, I had a set from every decade, with the exception of the first 10 years of the 21st century. So I decided to pick the 2001 set. So now between 1940 or 1941 to present day, I have at least one set from every decade. And that's just kind of the mentality I have. I like to have the holes filled in my collection. And I think this was a good way to get some cards from that era. And like I say, I like to have cards from all eras in my collection. So I bought this card, and I bought also the 2001 Topps Traded Albert Pujols card. And these two were the last 2 cards I needed in the set. So I got them at extremely good prices. I did not pay anywhere near VCP, and but I wanted them in my collection. I wanted to have them to finish the set. So these 2 cards wrap up the entire 2001 Topps and Topps Traded set. These are the only 2 cards I bought graded. The Ichiro Rookie, which is in the regular Topps set, I bought that ungraded. Maybe someday I'll get that graded. I'm not sure. Doesn't really matter at this point. The set features roughly 1,065 cards. So that's like the largest Topps set I have. And I didn't know this. Topps, I guess, for several years would skip the number 7 in honor of Mickey Mantle. So Terry, TJ Mack, Vintage and Nostalgia, was informing me about this, but he said there are replacement cards that feature Mickey Mantle. So I looked it up, and yeah, I found like this company made card. There's like a 2005 Topps Mickey Mantle. There's a 2006 Mickey Mantle. I found the 2001 Mickey Mantle, or the one that that emulates this set. I decided to buy it and make the set complete. So I think I have something like 1,065, 1,066 cards, but this was an easy set to complete, you guys. It didn't take very long, so that's why I rarely talked about it. But it's a nice one to have in my collection. All right, now the last card I'm going to feature is a subset I've been working on now for at least a year or two, and it's the 1961 Topps Subset All-Star. And I was finally able to pick up Hank Aaron in a PSA 4.5. You've heard me rant and rave about this subset, and happy to finally get Hank Aaron. I am down to needing 2 more cards in this subset. Ernie Banks and American League manager Paul Richards. Now I could buy the Richards right now if I wanted to, but there's one out there. There's a few out there in my price range, but I just feel they're asking too much money for a manager who didn't even take his team to the World Series the year before. Remember, Casey Stengel was... I don't know why they didn't make a card for Casey Stengel. I realized he was retired in 1961 or wasn't managing in 61, because I think the Yankees might have pushed him out the door. But so Paul Richards is still there, and I'll eventually pick him up. But really looking for the Ernie Banks. So those, you guys, are my cards for the week. And if you stuck around this long, thanks so much. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care.
It's a beautiful day for a ball game.